Forward it to the club. Very good. This is the West Shore Photography Club's normal Monday evening meeting. It is October 25th, 2021. Tonight's program is an image review of street photography with Chip Cain, and he'll be with us momentarily. Before we get into that, we'd like to talk about some of the trips we took for the benefit of everybody that may have missed Saturday. Mary, would you like to give an update on the trip on Saturday for the group?
For Fort Hunter, yes, about 13, 14 people showed up. Everybody seemed to have a really good time. The weather was really nice, overcast, but it was great for taking photographs. And a lot of people were really into that scavenger hunt thing. I mean, I don't think I saw two people in the same spot for too often. And as I was leaving, I saw more people coming, you know, or in different areas. So it seemed like everybody had a good time. At least I hope they did.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Robert always has a good stand on this stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. The scavenger hunt was you've been doing that for a couple of years now, haven't you, Mary, at different locations?
Yeah. Yeah. We had a scavenger, I think, at Wildwood Park.
Okay.
About a year ago or so.
Mm-hmm. Great. Those are fun. Okay. The next week, our program is going to be with Eve Smith, our member, and it's going to be on family and event photography. Eve, are you with us? You want to give us an update on that program?
Yep, sure. I'm going to just show some images and discuss some candid photography, even a little bit formal photography, but in casual settings, getting candid images and capturing the moment of the event, the mood and the moment.
Have you done a lot of this, Eve, through your wedding photography?
Yeah, a lot, yes. Yeah.
Lot.
It's important. I want to share the importance of the details and capturing it so it's not stale, that it's fresh looking and looking candid.
Okay. Good. Thanks, Eve. We're looking forward to that for next Monday night. We have upcoming 3 more trips in November. We have Boiling Springs, Peace Church, and Gerhardt Machinery. And you're going to get details on all of those. But the one that just came up, we've negotiated with the West Shore Historical Society and, of course, the West Shore Photography Club to have a private opening to the Peace Church, which is in Mechanicsburg. It was built in 1758 or something, was very instrumental in the Civil War. And we've been given an opportunity to photograph inside. Hasn't been open for about a year now, and they're going to open it up for us. And then they're going to close it right up again because it doesn't have any heat. They don't want to heat it in the wintertime. So, and its fate is really unknown. So we have a really cool opportunity there with, we're going to have some dignitaries, and there'll be some refreshments. And the whole idea is to bring some visibility to a historical structure within the West Shore Historical Society, and for us to take pictures inside. So that's going to be coming up, and you're going to stay tuned for that. We have 2 new members. We have Brian Moore, who has joined, and Brian is not with us tonight, but he lives in Hershey, and he's been photographing since about 2015, he tells me, and he loves photographing old things, which is going to fit right in with the Gerhardt Machinery, Eve, and he'll love that. And he's joining us, he said, because you guys are active and you do things. So, and he just loves to take photography. We have another member, Kurt Wilke. And Kurt, are you with us tonight?
I am.
No, I don't think so. Maybe I did early.
Okay. Do you want to?
Did I? Do you know what? Can I
you
play back? This is my photo club's on right now.
Patty, can you mute yourself, please?
Sorry.
Thank you. Kurt, you want to give a little introduction to you, please?
Sure. Yeah, I'm from Dallastown, Pennsylvania, York County, just down the road.
Okay.
And been shooting since 2004. Started out shooting accessories for a catalog. and have gone on from there. Started with Nikon, moved to Canon. Currently, I shoot an R5. Actually, I have two of them. And birds in flight, do a lot of that. I do a lot of HDR, so abandoned buildings. That church sounds great. Do some landscape, do a lot of it. I do a lot of everything.
Okay.
And well, I guess I joined the club because I felt guilty. I've been to 2 East Broad Top events with West Shore, and I thought, well, I better start ponying up and pay my way.
Okay.
So that's why I joined. Now, I actually recently retired, and I'm just looking for more photo events. And you folks have a very active club, and I look forward to attending a lot of events.
Okay, well, great. Welcome aboard, and we're glad to have you, Kurt. That's really nice of you.
Thank you.
And speaking of dues, the emails that you received today did have a linkage in for paying your dues. Now, with Brian and Curtis joining us, we now have 150 members at the West Shore Photography Club.
Nice.
And we're real pleased with that. But your dues are $25 a year. And I did a little calculation that we have about 48 meetings a year. And we've been counting the ones that we do on Wednesday evenings, sort of special ones. And we do about 26 trips a year. So I did my arithmetic, and it looks like each one of the events that we have, meetings or trip, is cost 33 cents to come. So I think that would be a good incentive for you to pay your dues if you haven't done it yet. We'd love to have you part of the West Shore Photography Club.
Damn dues.
Me. So I am going to right now mute everybody. And if you want to then, once I do that, if you want to talk, you'll have to touch your space bar or unmute yourself. And Chip, I made you a co-host. And when I do this, it will unmute you. It'll mute you also. So you have to unmute yourself. And I'm going to now mute all. So there we go. Can you still hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great, thank you. And Chip, we can hear you. So
Good.
we're going to now stop our little yakking, and we're going to get into the program with Chip on street photography. Before we do, Chip, can you tell us a little bit about you? And I see some really great images on the wall behind you there.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
Let's see, real quick, like,
Yeah,
let's see if you can. I don't know. Can you see me? There we
yeah,
go.
oh, I can see you just fine.
That one here, let's see, right there is actually some hanging lights in a doorway in New York City. I happened to walk into a hotel, and between the inner and outer doors was this chandelier of some type. Real quick, like this one is taken out in Arizona, just outside the petrified forest. It was a sunset, and I took a series where intentional camera movement, and I call them sunset wins. There were 10 I was happy with, so that's one of them. And the big one behind me is actually one of the Beach Bash photo trips, one of the first ones that I was at. And I believe you were there, Joe. And that was at night after the event. And I took a flashlight and lit up left the shutter open and lit up the waves.
Oh my gosh, those are waves that you lit up with a flashlight. How
Yeah.
interesting.
So
Okay.
that I have to show you one more. Some of you may have seen this, but I'm proud of it. This is Canyon du Chat
Oh my gosh.
out in Arizona as well. And I took a trip. That's called the White House. That's actually 6 photographs stitched together. And you can see the detail of every stone. And there's actually graffiti from like 1827 on there. They've dated it. So you can read it pretty clear. So thank you. About me. That's part of what it's about. I like photography just like you do.
Okay.
I'm not quite as centered on a particular item other than if you look at my stuff, maybe landscapes, I tend to look at them differently. I look at well, let's do it this way. I look at the rocks instead of the cliff or the expanse. I tend to go in closer, sometimes to a fault. I miss the big thing that's out in front of me, and I'm looking at the rock I stand on. And I have a series of those called The Rocks Cry Out, because that's what they do. They do to me. I've been doing photography since high school. That's a very long time ago. When we used to take our notes on stone tablets and etch them out. But like many of us, we start with photography and life gets in the way. And so it stopped. My kids took my time, or my family. And when digital photography first came out, I did a little bit of research and I said, okay, I'm waiting till we get to 4 megapixels. And when we get to 4 megapixels, I'm going to buy my first camera. And that was when they was at 1. And everything I read just told me the quality I needed to wait. I tried to point and shoot first. A little 4 megapixel. I was surprised at how well I could use it. It did have a lot of features. Got to take a lot. You can blow them up more than you think. And then, bought a Nikon SLR and went from there. I like to travel when I can. Sometimes it's forced upon me. I took a job, company went out from under me that I worked for. And if I stayed with them till the business ran off, I got paid 2 weeks for every year there. So when it was done, I took a 6.5-week road trip. And that's where the Sunset Winds and Canyon de Chelly came from. But I like to go locally to Ricketts Glen. I've been there about 8 times in the last 6 years. I know I was with you once, Joe. And background as to some of you might be asking, what makes me qualified to review photos? There's the old saying, those who can't teach. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I don't like to think that. But my background, I like art. And I published a poetry journal for 5 years. And believe it or not, I believe that makes a difference in how I look at photos. You have to read poetry. I always intended to read every poem 3 times at least before I rejected it. Every once in a while, there were some that came along that you didn't have to read more than once. And that's true of photos too. You look at it and go, okay, and we move on. And we do that all with our own photos. Beyond that, I was a beta tester with Adobe's Lightroom. The very first time they offered beta testing before Lightroom 1 came out. At that point, they were interested in features, not just the bugs. And that carried through to version 2. And then after that, they stopped asking us what we wanted and just wanted to know whether it worked or not. And I stepped away. But I'm a huge Lightroom fan. You hear that when I review photos or judge them. That's my primary go-to. I do use Photoshop, but because I mostly work with photographs and any layering, I tend to do in camera, not out of camera, or something outside of Photoshop. Many of you familiar with On One, and I've used their product for many years. I'm not sure what else I can tell you. Anything else you want to know real quick?
Anybody have any questions for Chip? Just tap your space bar or ask them. Okay.
How
Oh,
long
go ahead.
you were taking photographs, Chip?
How long?
How many years? I mean, did you mention that or did I miss it?
Okay, well, I started in high school
Okay.
with an old Konica SLR that I bought from 42nd Street. Cameras, do a catalog.
Do you prefer black and white or color?
I will tell you, it depends on the photo.
Okay.
I tend to see color more than black and white. So color would be my go-to. If I do things black and white, I tend to don't leave them that way by layering in colors more often than not, or tint them, dual tone. I like to do that. Tone my pictures instead of leaving straight black and white.
Thanks, Chip.
Mhm.
Thank you, Chip. I made you co-host so you can share your screen now. If you have Adobe Acrobat up with the images on, that'll be good.
Sure do. Can you
Okay,
see that?
not yet.
No.
I can see you. but
Oh,
you have to
oh, I
share your
pulled
screen.
it up. I didn't share it. I'm
You need to
sorry.
share. Yeah, you need to share.
Yes, I do. All of a sudden, my brain just went blank on sharing.
On the bottom, you'll see a green box. It'll probably say share screen. And if you don't see the green box, you may need to move your cursor down.
Yeah, let's. I'm not seeing a green box. Let's see here.
It could be maybe on the top or on the sides. If you move your cursor to around the corners, it'll probably pop up on you.
Yes. All right, let's try this again. All right,
Might be on auto. It might be on auto hide, Chip. You might just.
yeah, it just, I think I see it now. I got it. Thank you. Now, do you see it?
Not yet. It started. I don't know if you need to. There we go. You see it on the screen. It looks perfect.
Good. Full screen, I hope.
Full screen is perfect.
Great.
Great. And before you start, let me make a comment here.
Sure.
You'll notice that there's 4 images, everybody. We only have 4 images this evening, and we take responsibility for that, for not getting out the reminder email last Thursday morning, and we didn't do that. So we only have 4 images. And later on in the program, I'm going to ask some comments by you. But for right now, let's just get into it, Chip, and look forward to.
All right. 4 images is actually going to let us do a few other things later. If I get the time, we talk about naming photos.
Yes.
We'll use these as examples. Okay, the first one, puddle reflection. And first you look at it and it's like the title tells you what it is right away, and we'll talk about titles later. But I saw the title and I'm thinking, well, all right, I can see on the upper right-hand side there, it shows me clearly that there's must be the edge of the water, so that's a reflection. So it was very clear for a reflection, appears to be almost straight on. And it's an unusual photo that you look at it and you go, even without the title, you're going, something's different about this photo. And I'm going to say a little bit to the last, something that I thought the photographer did, which was an excellent choice. But so you know it's a reflection, it's clear, it's edited well. There's not a lot more I could say about it, other than related to the theme, street photography. And we'll talk a little bit about this with other photos. Not knowing what guidelines were given, you know, there's some questions of what qualifies as street photography. Initially, many people might not think this is street photography. We generally think people. There are some exceptions where there aren't photo or individuals in it, but this is on the street, and you know, it's photography. So I'd say yes, it would qualify even without clarification. I would call this street photography, although more on the outer edge of things. But that being said, it still felt like it qualified to me. The piece that I thought, from an editing standpoint, only one area I would like to suggest, and it's not a big deal, but you'll see here, these are clearly the rocks sticking out past the water. That's absolutely fine. I wouldn't touch them. But this one right in the, oh, you don't see my mouse.
Yes, we do. No, we do.
Oh, you
see
do?
that.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Right there, I would suggest taking out. I don't know whether it's actually another stone coming up or dust, but either way, and that's a very minor item. So, but it's also very easy to take out. So I would suggest that. From the standpoint of an excellent choice that this photographer did, if you will allow me, I want to show you. Oh, it won't. Without me shrinking it, I can't, or taking it out of full view. If you rotate this 180 degrees, this picture, I have to do this. You'll have to let me.
Okay, go ahead.
It's just too good to me. Oops. Well, there we go. Now that's how this picture was taken. You see this road going off. Here's the water. It's like, for me, I think the photographer flipped it. Let's make this church upright, and ended up making a very, a photo that has tension in it. Something, and I would consider that something that makes us look at it deeper, because it didn't feel right. There's something about this photo this way that seems odd. To me, that's okay, because it makes us look into it. So I really like the photo, and I like what he did. She flipping it like that. There's nothing I would do from the standpoint of cropping. I had thought about down in the bottom, but if you do that, you lose the road that anchors the photo in this direction. That makes it feel like this is the right way to have it, even though it's been flipped. So I think they did a nice job.
Okay. Can we hear from the artist?
That's from Mary Eileen Carson. And as I went through my photography to find something to submit, a lot of my street photography I have submitted before, and I'm combing through things, and then I came across this, and and it's kind of tongue in cheek. Yes, the theme is street photography, so I'm giving you a picture of the street.
Okay.
Yes, and it was totally rotated. Yeah, I mean, when you turned it around, Chip, that's the way it came out of the camera. I tend to have a fascination with reflections. Well, I go through, let me back up. I go through periods where I have a fascination with reflections, and saw this. That's Zembo Temple, and it's in the winter, and it was a puddle. I want to someday take the picture with the sun behind me. This is the sun coming up in the morning, so we're pointed east. One of these days, I'm going to get it together and get that puddle there with the sun in the west and see how that works. But anyway, yes, it's a reflection I took in the street and then rotated it, so you're looking at it straight on. And it's Zembo Temple, and it's from me trying to get some sort of a image out of reflections in puddles in the street.
Okay, when you do that, do you automatically flip them, or do you flip them and say, does it work, doesn't work, and move on?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I've done that with other photos. Yeah. Needless to say, not everything I take. Yeah. When it comes to reflections, not everything I take is worth working on. So yeah, they get rejected, but this one I kind of liked. So I flipped it, edited it, and yeah, it's part of my reflection collection.
Okay,
Okay.
Thank you for the comments.
you're welcome.
Chip, before we go on to the next one,
Sure.
any questions from the audience for either Chip or for Mary Eileen on the image? No? Okay, go to the next one.
Okay, watching from a distance. I thought this photo was a little interesting because the guy looks Amish or Mennonite or something, but he's not dressed like you would normally expect. Obviously, that's showing my bias just because I see the beard there. The photos I think is well edited. The dappled lighting coming through is done well. It's not either over sharpened or something to make the contrast and shadows too sharp. So it filters through very nice. The face obviously needed to be worked on, brought out, because that would have been a little more dark than I believe we're seeing there. So kudos to the photographer for getting that fairly close to blending, I believe, with the rest of him. And just the sort of gentle background, the lights in the front, keep your eyes closer to the subject and the white shirts there. And the background, it's fairly sharp, which I think actually works here, and the vines just add some texture behind them and separates them from the wall. So it's a good spot to find someone sitting there like that. If you don't mind, I guess I should ask first, Joe, do you think I will get a chance to talk about titles when we're done?
Yeah, oh, definitely. You're definitely going to have
Okay,
time for that.
all right,
Yeah.
because I want to talk about all four of these with titles. So we'll leave the title piece alone for the moment. Other than, I do have to say this because it affects the photo on this one about the title. Watching from a distance and you see him, and it may be just me, but this title makes it feel a little voyeuristic. You know, I don't know why I'm assuming he's looking at something he shouldn't, but that's sort of what the title left me with. So we'll talk more about titles and how you could consider something with this photo a little later. I like the photograph though. I think it was well edited. If I could find a suggestion to it, again, it's a minor one. The face, it has been brightened, I believe. The photographer can tell us for sure, but I believe so. But when you do lighten skin like that, especially it's been in the shadow, the temperature of it can be a little off compared to the rest of the skin. It's a little pink. I would suggest warming it just a tad to try to match something like this in there. It's hard to tell, but at least from my looking at it right now, it feels just a little pink. And I'd just take a brush and warm it up the barest bit. And again, that's a very minor point that maybe I'm the only one who'll notice. I like the photograph. Interested who took it.
It's Mary. I'm the one that took that, Chip. And it was at that, I'm not sure what it's called. It was when the fire trucks were all on Front Street and they were pumping the water into the Susquehanna.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and he was sitting, he's right next to the bridge, and he was watching the parade. There was a parade going by. So he wasn't doing anything nasty, right? he was watching from a distance, literally, you know.
It was, right. I
And-
shouldn't make that assumption.
No, but hey, now I get it. I'm thinking, oh, gee, I got to be careful with these titles from now on. But as his face, it was a lot darker, believe it or not.
I
because of the
figured.
shadow. I thought I brought it out enough, but it's not real clear, Chip. When you get close, it's not real clear. So I tried to make it lighter. If you could see the before, there's a massive difference in his face. But I'll have to try to make it a little bit lighter. But he was just sitting there minding his own business and just watching things go by. and I liked his red. I think I initially called it the red suspenders or something. I should have kept it, you know. But yeah.
Well, it may say something more about me than you, Mary, in the title. How I keep it.
Hey, you know what? It's nice to see it, hear another perspective on it, you know. But I like the shadows on the steps and everything. I like
Yeah.
texture, and he had a lot of texture too. His
Yeah.
legs, his you know, his hat and everything, his hands, and the way he was holding his little walking stick. That was the most interesting thing in the fire pumpers for me.
Mary, may I ask you about the dappled light on near his legs and where his feet are? Did you add that dappled light or was that there?
It was there, but I did enhance it.
Okay.
It was there. I just made it brighter or sharper or added texture or something to it, Joe. But it was there. I mean, I don't know how to add stuff like that, Joe.
Mhm. It looks great. So,
Mhm.
any questions for Mary or for Chip on this image from the audience? Okay, let's move on to the next one then, Chip.
All right. Illusion. And, you know, when you look at photographs, those that make you go, oh, I think they're very nice. This one made me go, ooh. I liked it. I've said many times, I love lines. I'm a very graphically oriented person when it comes to photographs I like, even though all of mine aren't quite like that. I like other photos that happen to be that way. This is that way. Lots of lines, lots of contrasting lines. We got lines going this way and then this way, and you know, this way, up and down, all over, there's a lot in here, and nothing fights any other part of it. It just, as a whole, works very well. So I really like this photo. And two places editing wise, and they are again very minor, which shows you the quality of these photos that I'm looking at tonight, because it's true of all four. I might be tempted to crop the bottom so you don't have this little triangle there. And that one is, you know, I'd say take it or leave it. If you like it there, I don't think it hurts. I just think it might enhance it just a hair. The other one that I would stand by a little more strongly is I'd open the shadow up here a little bit where this individual, I believe, is sitting, just so you could see it better. Maybe the original can be seen and it's just a translation to the PDF. But I'd say take a look at that. Otherwise, I really, really, really like this photograph. Would love to hear where it was taken and who the photographer is.
Thanks, Chip. It's Elaine Shook.
Eileen?
Truthfully, I wasn't sure if this really even qualified as a street photography, but I don't do a whole lot of that. So I went through my archives and thought what I might qualify. It actually was off street. It was taken in the city of Oslo, Norway, outside of the Oslo Opera House. I was truly walking the streets of Oslo, but I figured that the people in it might constitute street photography, so I did submit it for that reason. I was drawn to all of the texture and the distorted reflections, especially in this photo, but I was concerned that it might be a little too busy with all the lines potentially conflicting with each other. The part of it that I didn't like, that I was most concerned about, was the building in the upper left-hand corner that I thought it didn't appear to me like there was enough distance or enough depth between that building and the one where the people are sitting in front of. And I don't know if it's the way that I shot it. It just looks almost flat up against that front building to me. So I was a little concerned about that part of it.
Interesting. It does. It does look like that. I don't know what lens you were using. If it was more of a telephoto, it's going to bring that in. But I actually really like the contrast and never thought about whether that was up against or far away. It was just a contrast to the rest
Hmm.
that
It's
added
actually across
more
the street
structure
from
to
it.
it. What's that?
It's actually across the street from that building.
Yeah, hearing you describe what you did, that I assumed that then, but I would not have thought it looking at it. But I'd be curious to hear what other people might think of the photo. I don't think it's too busy. I like it. I think the busyness works here.
Thanks for pointing out that shadow there. I never even noticed until now. I think that is a little boy or girl next to his mother there. I'm not sure, but I never noticed him. So I will lighten that up a little bit. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Any comments from the audience on the image? I have one if nobody does. I just can't believe how many different textures and lines and shapes and diagonals you could possibly get any more than in one image. This just blows my mind. There's so much to look at. I'm sitting here looking at every little corner and piece. I'm trying to find in my mind those two dark patterns in the middle of the image where they're sitting down. Is that like the way it is? Is that a shadow? I mean, I'm just thinking all this. It's just wonderful.
Joe, that 3/4 of this image is a mirrored wall. So the side where you see the darker sidewalk where the people are sitting,
All this,
that's all, that whole section is mirrored glass. So the reflection is darker on the bottom there.
Yeah, it's just. Anybody else have a comment or question for Elaine?
I'll just say it's really cool. I love it.
here, here.
I have to agree. I love that.
Thank you.
Okay, Chip.
All right.
Fine.
Our fourth, homeless, and it's obviously a rocking chair sitting there, little chair off to the side that you don't see instantly, but it's there. And it's in a setting that looks sort of garden-like. We're placed there. The textures in the background are really nice. They don't detract. The chair is bright enough to keep her eyes focused on the main subject, and I like just this little bit of extra here. And it's not so bright that it makes this stand out as something different. They sort of blend in a texture kind of way. The gravel here versus the flowers of some type on the plant. And it just sort of blends up through the chairs and up into the stone. And this angle here I think it just adds a nice touch to it. So whoever purposefully designed this, I thought it did a good job. And this would be the one that you look at and go, street photography? But hearing Elaine a minute ago, I took this while walking the street. Obviously, that's what I thought that's what happened here. I'm not sure that would normally qualify as street photography, but again, I was given no parameters to that way. Either way, it's a nice photograph. It's edited well. The coloring, I think, is very nice. I like that the chair is bright, everything else is sort of subdued, almost like in shadow. From a cropping standpoint, it's a shame, and this feels thin. So I wondered if there wasn't more here and the photographer chose to come up against the window and not thinking about cutting the chair off. I would actually rather seeing a little more chair and let stone be on that side of the window as well, unless there's something there they didn't want us to see that would have taken away from the photograph. And the photographer can share that. If you had room, maybe just a hair more at the top. Actually, now it dawned on me, I wasn't in full screen. Just a little bit at the top as well. That doesn't bother me as much as this. But it's a well-edited photo. There's nothing too dark, nothing too bright, and sometimes that can be a challenge. So kudos to the photographer. And I'm interested to hear from him.
Oh, thanks very much, Chip. This is Dave Marchetto. And as far as the street aspect of it goes, at least Mary Eileen had a street. I was on the street. So since this was an image review, I thought I would submit it and then run for cover. So I really appreciate you getting your eyes on that. I wrestled with the crop on that left, and you're right. It didn't want to go there in terms of the rest of the building and the distractions. So even on top, I could have gone a little bit more and so forth. And all I could say is that's where it rested, best for me. Yeah. But actually it goes very, very high. So had I thought about this, maybe, looking at the chair as the subject when I took the photograph, I probably would have done something different. But it's actually a pretty close crop of the original. It's an antique shop in Columbia that Mary and others organized. Joe was there, and we were walking around my favorite city, Columbia, I think right by the Susquehanna. So there were a lot of opportunities for a lot of photos. Yeah, the chair, it was important for me to get the right color of white. I spent as much time on the editing, on the color and the shading of the chair as anything else. I wanted it to look a little dusty and worn, and that's what we got.
There was one other item, actually, I forgot to mention. I would like to ask about this. I assume it's like a metal rod or something. I would at least play around with the idea of trying to clone that out. It's not super obtrusive, but I think the chair would feel more inviting if something wasn't sitting across the arm.
It's like those ropes you see in the antique stores going across the chair so you don't sit in it.
Right. Okay. In the photo, maybe.
If I really were up to Photoshop, which I'm not, I really would have attempted it. But in Lightroom, my skills are just not there in any easy way to get rid of that. The reason I decided to leave it there too is because it was a sort of a jumble of all sorts of things, and that kind of fit into the to the mood. Okay. I really did wrestle with that quite a bit, and it was just too small and difficult, with my current Lightroom skills, to do much about it.
Okay, the fact that you thought about it and then made the decision to leave it, to me, that's important. It wasn't something you missed. You saw it and made a decision, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's got a few shadows going for it, it seems like, and I think if I got rid of it, like on the left arm there, it looks like there might be a shadow that's casting, and it was just a little bit too much for for me to wrestle with. I did wrestle very much with the bush and those purple flowers, from not having them show at all to having them jump out at you. So that was fun to really wrestle with. And as you say, I'm glad you saw it blending in. I spent a lot of time on the shadows and different colors of green and purple there.
Well, you did well with it.
Thank you so much for your comments, Chip. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Any questions or comments from the audience? I have a question for you, Dave.
Yeah.
You said you spent a lot of time on the chair, and I know you're a very precise person when it comes to your editing. I've watched you over the year rather. How much time did you spend on that chair, if I may ask?
You want me to really fess up? In terms of the proportion of time, way over half. I think in various iterations, I would say conservatively an hour till I kind of got it in the way I was comfortable with it.
And were you going through, like, using the adjustment brush and lightening the chair to make it stand out from the background like it is now? Is that what you were doing?
Absolutely. I had a run with white balance on that chair. Contrast, Joe, I know, with the Orton effect, you've always spoken about contrast and clarity and saturation. So I desaturated the window behind it to, the red maroon there to make the chair stand out a little bit. What was really interesting is if I zoomed into the chair, I was very pleased with the color and texture, but then it became just compositionally, not for me, not feasible. You'd lose the back on, the slats and so on. So I would have liked to play with the chair a little bit more, but I thought I would lose context if I, even spent more time on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I want to compliment Dave. You seem to have, you've shown before your still lifes, and this is almost a still life. And you've really got an eye for that. You do a great job on still lifes.
Oh, thank you so much, Diane. Actually, I'm now setting up my dining room studio to do more of the same. I do enjoy close-ups and detail. I'm kind of a control freak, so I pretty much want it my way all the time. Thank you for those comments, Diane. Appreciate it.
Okay. Well, thank you. Now, Chip, you had some thoughts on titles.
Yeah. So let's drop back here. First, I'm going to give you a couple of quick categories, and my perspective on it overall. When I'm referencing the issue of titles, I'm more thinking of for exhibition, or in a case like this, or competitions, not titling like you might in Lightroom, depending. For me, when I have a group of photos, if I go to Ricketts Glen, they're all titled Ricketts Glen with the date, 1 of, 2 of, 3 of. And then when I want to show one, if I want to show something other than just saying Ricketts Glen, Ogallala Falls, I will pull that out and give it a separate name when I convert it to a JPEG for showing. So that being said, I'm going to break it down into 3 pieces. There are other people who break it out 1,000 times more. I'm going to give you 3, and then a 4th at the very end that I just have some fun. So first, there's what I would call the straightforward title. Then there is the more emotive or mood, and then the creative. And the emotive and mood sometimes can overlap each other, but the straightforward. So let's use these photos. This would be a straightforward title, but we also want to be careful not to give too much. And that's the puddle reflection. The puddle feels a little superfluous to me. Reflection would have been enough. We don't have to tell everybody everything about a photo, say reflection, they'll figure it out if they want, that it was a puddle reflection. And so that would be more of a straightforward way of handling this photograph. I'm going to, at each one, touch base on where it's possible, the 3 points, the 3 ways of titling, and then we'll look at the next one, go through the 3, and I'm going to ask for help, because there were some of them, I don't know if they even fit with all of them. This one would be tougher to do, more of an emotive or mood type title, or even a creative might be a little more tough, at least for me. So real quick, like, anybody have any suggestions? Okay.
Just talking about titles, or are you talking about the photo in general?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Are you talking about just the title or the
The
photo?
title for this photo.
Okay.
I mean, you know, either something emotive or of a mood type thing, or creative. And that might be one and the same in this case, depends.
I'm gonna go with Castle in the Clouds.
Okay,
If it's a reflection, I liked it upside down, actually.
I agree. I agree. I like it
I
upside
like it upside
down.
I have a tree like that, and everybody says they want to turn it around. I said, no, it's a reflection. It's like, I don't know, they must think I'm crazy because I have it hanging there like it looks upside down, but it's not. I like this one. I mean, I couldn't figure out what the top of the right-hand stuff was. And when you turned it
Right.
around, it all made sense.
right.
I
Yeah,
like
and-
it that way.
Okay, so we're still
I'd say
Back on the
topsy-turvy.
topsy-turvy, okay?
I would say if it was turned upside down, a title could be Careful Where You Step.
There you go, okay. All right, let's go to number 2. Watching from a distance, you already know what I think about the title of the way. It's also, it tells us too much. It's straightforward, all right,
Hmm.
but sometimes straightforward still can have some mystery.
Right.
The observer, we don't know what he's observing. You know, one word or 2 words always seems better to me than longer titles, especially if you're being straightforward. You know, if you go to Wildwood and you take a picture of the lotus, it's like American Lotus. That can work as a straightforward. American Lotus at Wildwood is too much.
What about like The Gentleman or something like that? Was that too much?
Gentlemen, that would work.
Okay,
You know, something
I'll change it.
single there. Now, if we were talking about mood or something emotive, you know, I have a couple of, you know, possibilities, but I'd like to hear from some of you.
Like pondering, like the word pondering.
Pondering, I like that one.
Resting,
Contemplation.
What?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Contemplation.
Oh, another good one.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. And with these, I had one similar to that. And here's where I'll talk about the wording choice to get the same thing. Pondering might work, but I'd probably just leave it at ponder. But now this is Chip Cain talk, you know, I'm not saying it's absolutely the right way, because I think pondering can work. Contemplation, I would rather the word contemplative, but that again is a Chip Cain perspective of things, maybe. But contemplation would work way better than watching from a distance to me, because you know, whatever he's looking at, he may well be, you know, contemplating. So restive versus resting, you know, think of ways, synonyms to me. You know, nowadays I have a bunch of books, I never use them anymore. I just go on Google and look for the synonym. But I would challenge you to do something like that and find something that might fit that's a little more intriguing in its title. So let's, this one, we didn't talk about creative. I couldn't personally come up with anything that might be considered creative as a title. But I wanted to give everybody a chance to see. How about you?
Okay, this is out there a little bit. How about damn kids?
I thought of that too. He's watching those darn kids.
You know what? That would work.
I was thinking back
That's
in the
funny.
day, or I remember when.
Yeah.
Along that line, it was life's reflection.
Okay, right. Yeah. Well, good. You guys were better than me then on that one.
I
All right.
like damn kids.
Yeah, I do too. That makes me laugh. Illusion. This title, I didn't mention it when we were looking at it, but I don't see it. I see a reflection, but I don't see an illusion. Now, you could, after the fact, talk about, well, there's the illusion of the building being up against the other, but that really doesn't fit. This one, as a straightforward word, I think reflection again works. Or reflective. Because I just don't see illusion.
How about double vision?
Double vision would work. That might be more on the creative side to me, versus a straightforward.
That was actually my first choice, but it sounded a little mundane to me. The reason I picked illusion is because when I initially saw this, and it doesn't necessarily look the same way I saw it, it actually looked like double the number of people. And it did look like an illusion because the wall was so mirrored that the people
Right.
in it looked very, very real. So to me, it was illusionary, but you're right. Looking at the image, it doesn't necessarily say anything.
Well,
Vertigo might work.
What is it?
Vertigo.
Vertigo. Okay.
Yep.
That might work as a straightforward. I would probably put that more somewhere in the creative, but it's a single word. It's just right there for us, so that could well work. How about other creative or emotive or mood type?
Melting.
Melting. I'm not sure I get that one.
I guess the windows are just sort of look like they're ready to run.
Oh, okay. All right. Might make someone challenge someone to look at it really close. And sometimes that's good in a title too. Okay.
How about windows of the world, in the world?
There you go. Right.
Chip, this is off the wall because it's like distorting, like hallucinating or something. A little off the wall.
Off the wall would work.
There you go. Off the wall does work.
Right. There's a lot off that wall. It's such a beautiful photo though.
I like off the wall. Can I use it? Whose idea was that? I'll give you credit for it.
I don't think it's copyrighted for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, homeless. Next to illusion, this title felt like the most, or maybe as misplaced for me. And I apologize, David, for saying that. But it's not homeless, and it's obvious it's not homeless because it's placed very purposefully. And so, I kind of understand what you're saying, but it doesn't quite work that way. But let's look at straightforward titles. What would be some good ones? I have one, but I wanted to hear from some others.
Old comfort.
Okay,
How about aged?
age, all right.
Peace.
What is it? Okay, now see, everyone I've heard so far, I would put under emotive or mood.
How about once?
Once,
Yeah. Yeah, once.
okay. I'm not sure, one chair, is that what you're referring to? Or
No,
once
just-
in
it could
upon
be
a
once
time?
upon a time, or just
There we go.
once, you know?
Right, okay,
It could
right,
have been
that's
in a
certainly
beautiful
closer.
castle, it could have been
Yep,
an old lady's chair, it could have been, you
right.
know, you gotta use your imagination.
Yeah, okay, that's closer to straightforward, but straightforward generally would not use imagination for straightforward titles.
How
The
about
one I would come up with is two chairs. Plain and
I
simple.
almost just said that.
There you go. You know,
about
two chairs, the
father and
white
child?
chair. What was that?
Father and child.
Okay, that would be more in the emotive or creative to me. Because straightforward, again, you're letting the people know what they're seeing without being too obvious in a sense. You guys could disagree with me, but that's how I would put that.
How
From a
about, how about antique rocker?
antique rocker, there you go. That's very straightforward. To me, that works with this. Now, if we start moving into emotive or mood or creative, because again, I think they butt very close. Emotive and mood is a portion or a type of creative titling. I heard even homeless might work within there. I would work for something else.
What about weathered? No.
Weathered, yep, that would work. Respite would be probably what I'd put there, more in an emotive and mood type title.
How about age to perfection?
Age to perfection, right?
Well used.
Well used. There you go. Others?
You know you're in trouble when you have to explain the title. But
Yeah,
I'm
and there's
not
some
going to
truth
try
to
to
that.
do that. But I was thinking of the story, like, you know, grandpa's chair,
Right.
grandpa's not there. The little chair could have been the child.
Okay.
And this is waiting for adoption, I guess.
Well, you know what?
So,
You've just named some excellent titles. Grandpa's chair, waiting for adoption. I
Yeah,
mean, those are awesome titles for this.
this is very helpful. I appreciate all these comments too. Yeah.
So,
You know, I actually like the title of homeless. I think it has a homeless feel.
okay, there you
The
go.
only alternative I would say would be, I would maybe call it could have been.
Could have been.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about invisible man?
There you go. It would work.
That stick across it, that might be a cane or a walking stick.
Yeah, that's
The
certainly
invisible
could be.
man's in the chair.
Old, old and elegant.
Oh, there you go.
Talking about Donovan or what?
Man.
choose one of two.
Wow. So I mean, there's probably more I would share, and I would have used some of my own photos if I had more time. This kind of came up. I've been thinking about it for a while because Dennis asked me, but one time when I was commenting on all the titles in one of the reviews, but I hadn't perfected it. So that's the three main points. But there's one more that I'll consider it as a fun option, but it might work as well. And I'll give you real quick, like sometimes taking a photo and turning it, translate it into another language. I picked French because I think French sounds nice, generally speaking. And so if you did puddle, you've got, now this one doesn't work as well to me. It's flack, FLAQUE. I'm like, no, that doesn't work. Reflection is reflexion. So flack, reflexion, if you do it literal translation. I don't know if that one works. You might want to think of something else. Translate castle in the sky in French and figure out how that works. The other one, if you did French, if you use something like watcher, you've got observateur. Now that's masculine. There's an observatrice, which is feminine. Sometimes, it's like, maybe it's a bit pretentious to name something in French, but I've seen plenty of photographs done that way. If you did reflection, illusion in French is illusion. It's a French word. So it didn't change it any. So I went to reflection or reflecting, and it's reflectant. It sounds nicer. People are still going to know what you're talking about. And the last one, if you took homeless, it sounds better in French to me. It's sans abri. So you could use that, David, if you want. Or empty chair is chase vide, VIDE at the end. That's just being a little corny, tongue-in-cheek, maybe.
David, David, can I ask, while on the homeless thing again, David, can I ask you, when you put a name on it, when you looked at your picture, when you were taking it or soon afterwards, what you feel that you would have named it? It seems to me that maybe you were thinking homeless. Was it, or did you just look at it, pick it out of a file and look at it and said something to you then?
It's a really good question. When I took it, I shot super wide on this. So I wasn't even sure at that time that I was going to focus, so to speak, or zero in on that chair. I actually had a few more objects in there and so forth. So it was really through the processing and through the process, I guess, of elimination, cropping in and honing in. And then it really struck me that there was a story to me regarding the chair. And that became my, my muse, I guess. And
let me ask you, why did you shoot it though, David? So I don't want to go too deep.
It was a very interesting antique yard. And I think I even caught the sign on this photo, antiques. So if I really processed it as wide as I shot, I'm afraid Chip would have pulled his hair on this, because there would have been no subject. So that's how the chair finally, kind of got to be honed in.
Nice. It's a great photo.
No, I appreciate your comments, Richard. Thank you.
One last thing, as a wrap up to this, I'm going to repeat for me the three kind of areas to consider. One is the straightforward, the other is the emotive and mood, and the third is creative. The last two, I mentioned. I think I mentioned something about my background with poetry. I edited and published the Poetry Journal for 5 years. How that affects me when I review photos and titles in particular, is that I received lots of poems that the poet thought we knew what they were saying because they had this feeling within them and they just wrote these words, and I'm supposed to interpret based on their words, and there was no emotive effect in the words. I had no clue half the time what they're talking about, and they're going, but, and so generally it's kind of like, for them, I would say, put it away, put it away for a week, 2 weeks, a month, get away from the emotion you felt when you wrote it, come back to it, And generally editing, I would suggest doing this. Once you've edited, step away. When you come back to it a week later, you'll see the shadow that Elaine, you didn't see the first time. When it comes to titling, I'll give the same response. We don't know what you're feeling. You can give us a title and tell us that's what you felt, but does the picture really give that emotion, or are you still feeling the emotion thinking we can see it in the picture? Hopefully that made sense. So I would just challenge you to think about the viewer, not your emotion when you're titling. Especially on the, straightforward is not so much, but the emotive particularly, but also possibly the creative. That's my 2 cents on naming, titling photos.
I can tell Chip by your comments about poetry that we both survived the 60s. I thought Ferlinghetti was dead.
Oh, no, I have a bunch of his books. Not that they were any good, but I have them.
But they made you feel that there was something real that wasn't.
Isn't that the truth? Right. Yep. You're right.
Chip, this was so helpful. I mean, what a nice discussion. And just to narrow it down to just a word or two, and
Yeah.
it was very helpful. Yes.
Good, good. Hopefully it was fun too.
Yeah, it was. And thank you very much for the reviews. We appreciated that. And also
Very
for the titles. That was really hit home for me personally. So any other comments or before we terminate the meeting? Okay.
Thanks a lot, Chip. It was great. Appreciate it.
Very welcome.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Chip. Really
Yes,
nice
good.
to,
I
hear
enjoyed
from
it.
Good meeting, good meeting,
Yeah.
yes.
Thanks,
Always enjoy
Chip.
the photos, so thank you.
Thanks,
I
Chip.
just wish
Thank
there
you,
were
thank you,
more.
Chip.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chip.
Thank
Very
you.
well.
Good night,
Thank
all.
you, guys. Okay.
Night.
Thanks much.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night,
night.
everybody.
Chip, that was fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
Thank you.
I enjoyed that. I learned so much just by not telling the whole story, but enough to get the feeling,
Right, right.
That was
Very,
great.
very, very helpful. Thank you so much.
Good. They were beautiful photos. I like them all.
Yeah. Could you imagine if we had 15?
Would have been no time to talk about naming, so this was good.
So, that was good. So thanks much, Chip. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And it'll be recorded and it'll be on YouTube tomorrow.
Okay.
It will be. No, we have a YouTube channel and that's where we put them.
Oh,
If you
nice.
go to if you go to westshorephotographgy.com or .org or whatever it is, West Shore Photography, you'll see a link to the YouTube
Okay.
channel.
I didn't realize that, so I could see some of the other reviewers then.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
We just started doing it about maybe 2 months ago, so we don't have a whole body of
Yeah,
sessions out there. Yeah,
that's a great idea.
yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody. We'll
Thank
see you,
you.
Nancy, Rick,
All right, bye-bye.
Eve, and Terry. Okay, we're going to end the meeting. I'm going to stop the recording. Stop recording.